Commit to Wealth Nation, welcome to the Commit to Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Juan Vargas. Today on the show, we have Scott Carson. Scott has been an active real estate investor since 2002 and has focused on the distressed mortgage and note buying industry since 2008. Scott is the CEO of WeCloseNotes.com and has purchased over 1,000 plus deals worth over $1 billion in distressed debt. He's been featured in Investors Business Daily, the Wall Street Journal, and Inc.com. Based out of Austin, Texas. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Glad and excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man. It's a pleasure to have you on. And so you are based out of Austin, Texas, man. That's right down the road from where I'm at in Houston. So that's pretty awesome.
That's right, man. We are a 3 to 6 hour drive away, depending on Houston traffic.
Yeah, and you know how that goes. It's pretty tough, in Houston, and even Austin has been pretty crazy as well. The traffic, and there's just so much population growth that you guys are having there. So it's pretty tough, at times. Driving through downtown. It's forget about it. It's tough, right? So we have the same problem here in Houston. So.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you, man. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you guys started in this business.
Yeah, so I grew up in South Texas, down by Corpus Christi, and finished up my school at Southwest Texas State University. First job out of college, I got working as a financial advisor, and was making good money. And bought a couple of houses, bought a primary, bought a couple of investment properties, and the market turned south on us here. A lot of layoffs. I got laid off as well at the time, and so I became a deadbeat borrower at the time, back in 2001, 2002, 2003, and just really was doing real estate the wrong way. Originally, I thought I knew everything. The only person that was making money on my deals was the realtors that was buying them and short selling. Okay.
Yeah.
But fast forward, I learned from, I was fortunate enough a couple of years later, get into banking, hook up with a couple of real estate investors here locally that were traveling the country, teaching owner financing, creative financing on the residential commercial side. And so for a couple of years, I got to be really kind of an apprenticeship while I was kind of running the mortgage side of the business, making a lot of great money, but learning a lot of great stuff, nuggets, and really starting to learn how to invest properly, the right way to do things. And when the market turned south in 2008, I left the mortgage business and started focusing primarily on non-performing notes for the most part, but 100% into the distressed note game in 2010. And I bought a lot of debt, over $1 billion in distressed debt. We closed on a couple thousand plus deals. I stopped keeping track of it because we close on a couple hundred a year each year. But love the game, especially love it on the commercial side for those that are in the multifamily side, the apartment stuff, that kind of stuff. We've bought a lot of commercial debt. Been primarily residential the last couple of years, but we still see stuff that we jump in that makes sense. When the pricing makes sense, it's not overpriced. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. This is what I do. I'm 100% in the note game. We have a lot of great students because we do have an educational side of our platform, but we love helping real estate investors really find a passion for it. Whether you're a lazy landlord or a fix and flopper or REO refugee, we believe in fix and flopper. I'm a big believer that the note business is it's really how we're making America great again, one defaulted mortgage at a time.
There you go, going political over here, man.
Vote notes, everybody. Vote notes.
That's awesome. So, hey, you know what, Scott? Let's start from the very beginning. Some people might not know what a note is. So, let's start there. I think that's a good place to start. Just tell us what is a distressed note, and how do you take it? What is your business there?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people if you're buying a non-performing note, why would I ever want to invest in something that's non-performing, right? The whole idea is for cash flow. And, and the thing is, everybody's in the note game. Everybody out there, if you've got a mortgage, a car note, credit card, student loan debt, whatever you got, you're in the note game. You're just on the wrong side of the payment stream. And with non-performing notes, we'll take it back. A non-performing note is somebody where it's a mortgage on a residential or commercial property where the borrower is not paying on time, or they're just not paying at all. Whether it's 3 months or 6 months or 12 months late or a couple of years late, there's a lot of those people out there. There's still a lot of debt out there from the heyday that's still floating out there that borrowers are just, not performing. The loan's been sold 3 or 4 times, or they've gotten a house and now, they bought a property. Now they're going through their own country western song and can't afford the payments or mismanage the asset, especially on the multifamily side we see. that, the bank is motivated to move that asset, because banks make their money not owning property. They make their money by loaning the money out and leveraging the income and leveraging payments and their deposits and stuff like that. So they're in the note game. They just really do it because they're lending money, taking money and paying 0.5% or 1%, but then lending it out at 6, 10, 20% out there. They're really arbitraging that stuff. So what we do is we reach out to banks and hedge funds on a regular basis with a large database, reach out to their specific departments and handle this. And then they send us their lists, maybe one asset, it could be 1,000 assets. They send us their lists on a regular basis that we're able to cherry pick. We're often picking assets up somewhere between 30 and 50, 60 cents on the dollar, depending on where it's at and how far defaulted it is. But the fact that we buy it at such a substantial discount, a huge discount, especially on the commercial side, gives us a lot of flexibility that once we buy the note, we become the bank, and then we reach out to the borrower, whether it's the homeowner or the apartment owner, whoever it is on the other line, trying to get them to do some sort of modification, some sort of trial payment plan, trying to get to work with them to get back on track. Most banks are going to want them to pay the full amount back payments back due. We realize it's not going to happen, but we really try to say, okay, let's get you start paying on time. Let's talk about when you pay a little bit extra. Let's get you right on track. If you can't get right on track, then let's talk about some sort of exit strategies of getting you off the house. Either we take over the asset, if it's a commercial asset, we're collecting on the right to collect rents, or we work, offer cash or keys or deed in lieu, or worst case, we've got to take it to the foreclosure auction. We'll do that. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you mentioned that, what you buy is non-performing notes. You would think, like you said earlier, that you would want to have a performing note, something that's doing well, just trading hands, you're taking over. And it seems that would be less of a headache, but you're buying these that are not performing. In addition to that, are you buying, are you looking for deals that have a lot of equity, or are you looking for deals that have very little equity? I would imagine it's no equity, right?
Yeah, I'm going to actually answer the second. We do buy performing notes as well. We're constantly buying performing and non-performing. Our goal is to get the non-performing to performing, because we buy it at a substantial discount.
That's your value. So like compared to multifamily, you want to find a property that's below market rent, is not operating properly, whatever, something like that. So where you can improve the property, get it to a market, and then that increases your value of the property. That's the same thing you're doing. Okay, so that makes sense. Gotcha. Okay.
Exactly. It's just that we don't have to deal with the tenants for the most part. We're usually working with the borrowers to get it back on track of some sort. So if we bought it at 50 cents and we get it reperforming, we could sell that note off at 80, 85, 90 cents sometimes to somebody else who wants a performing note. They want a flat return on investment because it's been performing for 12 months on time. That's great. We'll sandwich ourselves in the middle for that. But usually when we're buying notes, we are buying where they're over encumbered. They owe more on the property than what the property is worth. And that takes away a lot of the motivation now from the borrower. Now, if there's a lot of equity, the borrower will fight us for that a lot of times, which, hey, if they've paid that mortgage down, that's great. Just work with us.
For sure.
Work with us. I mean, we don't want to take your property. I mean, we are out to make a profit, but I don't run a charity. We want, hey, if there's a lot of equity, great. Just work with us. If we became your bank, we're going to be your best friend. If you don't work with us, we're going to be your worst enemy, because we're going to be the bank. And we're only buying first lien positions on residential or commercial properties. But we have the bank. We have all the rights of the bank to do, but we can be flexible and creative as long as it's a really true win-win for both us and the borrowers.
Okay, gotcha. So is there like a property that you won't buy? Like, is there a geographical location or area that you don't buy in? And what is it, a typical property that you're like, you know what, I'm going to pass on this. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm out. What is that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So each state has different foreclosure laws and foreclosure timeframes. So I don't buy in New York. I don't buy in New Jersey because it takes forever to foreclose there. I love Texas, but Texas, since it's a fast foreclosure state, I mean, we do everything faster. Fast highways, that. Fast foreclosure laws and fast executions. You know what I
mean? Yeah. This guy's awesome, by the way, everybody. So you gotta get to talk to this guy offline.
So the thing that you look at when you have a fast foreclosure state, the banks can often want more for that asset because if it's 30, 60 days to foreclose, like it is here in Texas or Georgia, they're going to want more for that asset. I mean, that's on the residential side. You got to worry about, laws and servicing and things like that. In some states, they want you to be a mortgage broker to take property down, take notes down, like it is in Georgia and other places. But on the commercial side, hey, it's a little bit different of things. Now, I like to look at geographic areas. Yes, we do buy in most of the major markets, metroplexes, but we also buy a lot, especially in the commercial assets in secondary markets. Where I'll buy a residential note in a city that's got 50,000, I'll usually look for more commercial assets in $100,000 metroplex or greater. I've bought strip malls, I bought apartments, I've bought mixed use, I bought self-storage, I bought a beer barn that was renting to a Coors distributor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That we took the property back and sold it back to Coors, to the distributor.
Wow. Nice, yeah.
I bought an 8-plex in Charlotte that turned out to be a working brothel. I bought a 300-unit apartment complex from Banco Popular out of Indianapolis. I bought a 75-unit down in Laredo from Wells Fargo multifamily. 20 units. On the apartment side, I usually like 20 units or greater when I'm buying the debt. It doesn't mean we don't buy anything less than that. I mean, below that $1 million threshold or 20 units or less, I think there's a lot of opportunity still for multifamily investors to get in and kind of get their feet wet with an asset that small, because it's too small really to have on-site management, to really have stuff, but it's still a low balance asset that the banks, once it goes non-performing, they don't want to spend as much time on that, whereas it costs them just as much to work a 20 asset or less, like a 300 property unit property.
Right.
So we see a lot of that low balance stuff that hits our books. We see that stuff, and then we were able to make a pretty decent deal on it. California, it's the land of fruits and nuts, and with all the droughts out there, it's a bunch of nuts out there. People out there overpay for assets religiously. I mean, I saw a portfolio of apartment loans that were non-performing sell at 95% of value like a year ago, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So, I look where there's the best ROI. I look at where rent rates. It's the same thing like you said before. I still, in buying commercial, since we don't have comps and we don't have like an MLS a lot of times, I often feel like we're like Sherlock Holmes, where we're pulling rent rates and trying to figure out expenses and deferred maintenance costs and things like that on an asset. And unfortunately, a lot of times, for buying directly from the bank that originated the loan, they got the original loan file, so we can see a lot of that stuff. We'll use LoopNet to see if the property was ever listed on there, because often they'll provide financials that are pretty close. And then, of course, it's just sometimes calling and asking, well, what are you charging for rent? Do you have anything available? That kind of stuff. I've done that before, gone undercover loan investor on the apartments to see what's available.
Right. No, that's funny. I've done that as well. That's something which you got to do to check your comps, and it's fun. I love doing that. I don't know why. It's kind of weird, but I like doing that. So as far as size, what is the size that you look at? Is there a max, amount that you're looking for, or you're not going over, or what is it?
So on the commercial note, I definitely want to do something that's over 250,000, and then. On an apartment complex, we've funded one up to $3.5 million. So we stay below that $5 million kind of valuation aspect. Anything over $5 million, you're going to be butting your heads up against these huge funds and trusts and things like that. So we don't really mess around with those much, but you can still find a lot of great deals under $5 million that you can really take advantage of. Now, with a non-performing note side too, when you start getting a loan where the borrower owes more than $1 million, a lot of times the banks will explore opportunities to partner with you or to recast the loan. If you're taking the loan over and the original borrower is walking away, and you've got a team, team of experts, team of operators that got some experience, oftentimes they'll recast the loan and carry the financing for you, put you on books as a new loan. And so they move a bad asset to a good asset with basically just a punch of a few buttons, and if you pass the smell test. And so that's the things we look at. I mean, a lot of people and some people in the industry will say, well, you can't buy direct from banks. You can't buy. And that's right. You can't buy from Bank of America, Chase, or Citibank on a one-off basis, residential wise. A lot of these guys have commercial assets that they want to get off their books, because that's where they make the most amount of the bang for their buck, but it's also where they lose the most amount if they've got stuff that goes south. Now, if you can learn anything from me, it's not going to the customer service department and calling up. There are specific departments inside of the banks that handle these type of debts. You have residential and commercial special asset managers. That's one name that they go by, special asset managers. Or they're also known as secondary marketing managers. And oftentimes, depending on how big the bank is, you'll have multiple people. So that's one thing to keep in mind is we like to target, especially on the commercial side, banks that have at least 20 branches or more, and they're often lending in more than one state. If you're dealing with a smaller bank that maybe has 1 to 5 branches, they're going to be way too conservative on their underwriting to really let anything go at a discount. And we just want to we want to get a deal. We're all deal junkies.
Right.
You know, those that are listening here, they're all sharks looking for blood. You know,
right.
so just got to know where to go and what to look for.
Gotcha. So if, let's say I wanted to, or one of my listeners wanted to find out a little bit more about this. So they want to find a way that they can get on a list. So how can they, reach out to a bank or somebody at the bank and get on their distribution list, so to speak? How does that happen?
Great. Yeah, that makes total. So like I said, I would go to LinkedIn and type in, like I just said, the special asset managers,
okay,
or secondary marketing managers, and look for those people and connect with those people. Usually send them a LinkedIn invite. You can use like a service called laneguide.com, which is like $165 a year, that provides a list of people that are banks are being bought and sold. They'll literally you can do a quick search on there and pull a list of special asset managers and their name and contact and emails. And then it's a matter of just, I drip market these people. I'm not sending postcards or letters. I want to work smarter, not harder. So we'll just send an email out to those asset managers, usually once or twice a month. And every month we get something different in. Like, I'll give you an example. I sent an email out yesterday morning. I had an asset manager email me last night. 2 loans with the same bank, a grow house and a dispensary, both in California, which is kind of different. It's not multifamily, but it's a little green lending.
Yeah. Okay.
But those 2 departments, or you can, just search. There's a service called DistressPro that my buddy Brett Palumbo runs. What he does is he checks the banks. If you go to the FDIC.gov website and you look at the banks that are chartered by the FDIC, they have to provide quarterly reports. And in their quarterly reports, they will literally list the percentage and the dollar amounts of stuff that's non-performing, stuff that's past 90 days in default, not only the residential, but the commercial side. And those are great ways to target banks that if you see stuff on the commercial side, they're multifamily, the other stuff, you can literally target and find out what that bank is, and then go back over to LinkedIn, do a search, and often find the person in charge of that portfolio.
Gotcha. So going back to what you said, just to recap for everybody out there, you're not going to find these, or you're not going to be reaching out to anybody at Wells Fargo, at Chase, at some of these, Bank of America, wherever. You're going to be, that's not who you're targeting. You're targeting more of the smaller, more like the middle market, I guess you can say. Not the small ones either, because like you said earlier, they're not going to really have much inventory, and they're going to be too conservative on their underwriting. So I guess some of these that are little known, but not these at mass market to on TV all the time. That's
not. I hang on a second. Let me take it back there. I have bought a lot from Capital One.
Okay.
Not the credit. I mean, Capital One, the bank.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
I knew they were moving some stuff, and it took me 70 phone calls, and I got transferred. I can't tell you how many times to Pakistan or India before I finally got the right person out of New York. I had a lot of people, hello, my name is Steve. I'm like, no, it's not. What's your real name, man? Transfer me to somebody in the States if I could. And finally got all the right person. And lady out of New York, she, asked me a few questions, asked me what my target goals were and what I was looking for. And she's like, okay, I'll send you something. So she sent me a PDF, a 33-page PDF. That was all the words, all the addresses were in 6-point font of all the stuff they wanted to get off their books. And, it was $1 million relationship at that point, because we made over $1 million and buying and selling and buying and selling. And whether it was a 6 unit in San Diego, a 16 unit in LA, 21 unit in Dallas, 72 unit complex outside of Dallas in Greenville, Texas, another 20 units outside of Houston in Sugarland. And it's one, that's the beautiful thing. These bankers will have stuff on a regular basis that hits their books, It's just a matter of reaching out differently. I think a lot of us get so bogged down in the day in, day out, we don't want to market, that we just, hey, we've got a few sources. But I think we can all agree the market's been a little tighter the last year or two.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And these are the relationships that are going to pay off here in the next 6 to 12 months as the market starts to turn a little bit. As long as you stay in front of them. I mean, the most valuable thing I can tell people to do is, if you build a list, market to it. Set it up in Mailchimp or Infusionsoft and just drip market to these guys and gals, because these are really the people that make the banks run, and these are the decision makers also. And it's there's nothing better than I get an email, hey, I got an asset available for you to take a look at, off of an email.
For sure. Yeah. If you stay in front of them, then they might not have something at that moment, but they'll remember you if you keep staying in front of them. That's the key right there. So going back to the Capital One story, how did you build that relationship with that one person? What'd you do?
So it was basically, I finally got the right person. I said, hey, it's great finally meet you. I made 69 other phone calls. I'm calling about this asset. I know a specific asset that you guys are the lender on here off of Airport Boulevard in Austin, Texas. I said, looks like you guys sold the loan on that, or is it available? Or, she looked into it. She's like, no, it's sold off. The seller sold it, and then we got paid off. Like, oh, okay. Well, what else do you have on your books? Because I'm buying in a lot of the other major markets. And the fact that I had an address was kind of a warm lead into a cold lead, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I had an address, something they could check in. I spoke the language, the lingo. There's sometimes keywords you want to use. What kind of stuff do you have that has any color on it? You got anything with any hair on it? The hairier, the better, I like to say. And I just communicated with her, and I would ask her questions. She sent me the list after I signed a non-disclosure agreement. Sent me the list, and I come back, hey, what about this asset in San Diego? Or what about this asset in Miami? And we closed. And then it got to the point where she would start calling me, hey, I got this deal that fell through that wasn't on the list that you might be interested in. Or, hey, I got a new list of assets. I'm willing to give you an extra couple of days to review because you've closed on things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a valuable thing. If you can close, and when you're buying notes, you often can get 30 to 45, sometimes 60 days to close on a deal because it's commercial. And the bigger the asset, they realize that you've got to do some due diligence and other things like that. And the banks are willing to do that. But the beautiful thing is that we just closed. And here's another little known secret. Bankers can accept a gift one time a year of up to $100. So I found out where she was at. So I sent her a Spa Finder gift card.
Hey, that's like the most perfect thing you can send to a lady, maybe. Right.
And guys, if I was closing with guy asset managers, I either take them their favorite bottle of scotch or have it shipped to them. I was in Miami for when Miami was winning their first NBA championship, and I took two of the guys to a game. Ticket price was $100 for the seats. That's what the ticket price. Look, I paid more from a scalper, but it was the NBA Finals, Game 4, Game 5. It was
wow!
Great there, and yeah. I dealt with those guys for years. Still to this day, they're still buddies that I talk to. So
yeah, that's what it takes. So I said a good little tip right there. Just take care of them. They'll take care of them, and they'll remember you. Those kind of things mean a lot. So no, that's a really good tip. So you're buying all these deals. Let's talk about the funding. Because we haven't talked about that yet. So how are you funding these deals? Is it private capital? Let's get into that. Yeah.
Great question. It's we show you how to fund. I'll talk about how we fund these deals. So we're using primarily other people's money to fund these deals, unless we can get the bank on a higher valued asset to take on some sort of carrying a loan or restructuring the loan and put it on their books. But then usually still they're going to want something depending on the amount or the value of the asset, some sort of down payment. So we work with a lot of private investors. We use our securities attorney. Jillian Sadati is phenomenal, putting together private placements, and syndications for these bigger assets. On the residential side, we do a lot of minimal joint ventures with people on individual assets, individual houses that we're buying. But in the commercial assets, yeah, you're going to want to get an attorney involved to help structure the deal and the capital raise. And it's not saying that you've always got to deal with accredited investors. There's some ways you can put together with non-accredited or sophisticated investors. It's just marketing. It comes back. And that's the thing. While marketing to asset managers is great, you have to build a tribe and a database too, across your social media, across emails, across networking, across conferences that you talk to, or on LinkedIn as well, and really nurture those relationships as well. Share what you've got going on. Even if you're not closing on a deal, share a deal that you're working through, or a case study that you or a buddy did, or talk about your team a little bit. 80% of sales, and we're all in the sales business, is made after the fifth contact, whether you're contacting banks, contacting sellers, or contacting private investors. They want to see if you're a man or woman of your word and see if you walk the walk besides just talking the talk.
Yeah. Amen to that. Because every single day, every single person is selling something. You're selling yourself every single day. If you weren't, then why would you even shower? If you think about it, why would you even shower and get ready and try to look your best whenever you get in front of somebody or go out to public? You're selling yourself. You want to look your best, right? So it's as simple as that, but even more importantly in the business side of things. So let's talk about the typical costs of closing a deal. What is a typical closing cost and how much is it and what is involved?
So here's it's a little bit different. You don't have the same type of closing costs because you're not buying the property.
Mm-hmm.
With us buying the note, it's usually a transaction. I mean, it's a wire transfer to the bank, and then the assignment of the mortgage is then transferred over, recorded to the county. So what you do have is attorney fees if you got to foreclose. You got some servicing costs that go along with the note is being serviced, and you should always have a third-party servicer involved. There are some people out there teaching commercial investment like, oh no, I don't have a third party. We service in-house. That's a kiss of death. That reduces the value of that paper by 10-15% because you can always fudge those numbers. Always have a third party that's collecting. Always have a third party that's sending out documents to make sure you're compliant on things. But so you're going to have servicing costs. It's non-performing notes, $90, $100 a month, depending on how big the balance of that loan is. You're going to have some foreclosure costs. That'll vary by state and time frame. I mean, in Texas, you're going to foreclose relatively quickly for like $1,500. In California, that may cost you $5,000 to foreclose or more on things like that. So that's the thing. You're not going to get inside views of these assets either because you're not buying the property, you're buying the note. So this is why it's always important to always put eyes on an asset. And I don't care where it's at. Always have a realtor or somebody that you trust drive by and take pictures, whether it's an apartment complex or a single family home. Always take pictures and always have a professional pull comps as best they can for you to figure out what's going on. So one of the things I like to do when I'm doing due diligence is we use whitepages.com.
Okay.
Type in an address. If there's an apartment complex, we'll type in the address and then it'll list all the tenants in an area. And so we'll literally go down the list that White Pages provided or Spokio provides. You can use them as well. And literally gives you names and people. And I'll call those people. Hey, I'm trying to track down the on-site management for your place. Do you have a number for them where I got to reach out to them? Like, hey, we're contemplating moving to that or looking at buying that complex. Would you tell me about the property? And they will go on and on. Oh, yeah, the laundry's trashed or the gang's hanging out there or the management's great. Oh, my gosh, I got water dripping in from the toilet above for the last 2 years. They tell you all that you need to know.
Right,
and
right.
That's an invaluable thing. I record those calls because I'm like, oh, my God, I can't write down nuggets fast enough about an asset.
Yeah, you got to have it as a backup to remember everything they said. Yeah, that's good stuff. So let's talk about the typical returns for an investor, one of your investors, and I know it varies, but one of your bread and butter type of deals, if you can think of one, what is a typical type of returns? Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends. If we're partnering with an individual, like, one, maybe two people on a smaller project, we're usually just going splitsies on the deal. They'll fund the deal. We'll handle the workouts. Our team will handle it. When we sell the asset off, we'll always pay back the investor first. Expenses that are covered second, then we accumulate along the way. Then the profits are usually split, 50-50, 75-25, 60-40 for them on things. Residential side, it's kind of the same thing. Or if people are looking for a passive return, depending on what they want to bring to the table, we'll offer up like a 6 to 8% preferred return to those people, and then a percentage of the back end depending on what's going on with the deal.
Gotcha. So, and what is the typical hold? Like, how long do you usually hold?
Residential is going to be, I usually tell people expect 12 to 18 months. In the longer foreclosure states, at least 12 months in the faster. Just because if you're buying a note and you get it reperforming, it's going to take a few months, at least 6 months to get that loan seasoned so it shows up as a reperformer. On commercial stuff, depending on where it's at, if you run into bankruptcy, they'll drag things out a little bit. But 12 to 18 months. It's one of the things we always talk with investors. What are you looking for? You're looking for long-term? Great. Hey, let's put you in some performing notes or bring you on as a passive investor for 12, 24, 36 months, and just kind of see what their goals and expectations are, and go from there.
Yeah. So in general, I mean, it really depends. It really depends on the deal, on what side you're on. If you're partnering on a deal, or if you're being a passive. But I guess the returns can vary greatly.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just if you buy an asset at 50 cents and you hold it for 6 months, you get 6 months of cash flow, and then you're able to sell it off at 80, 85 cents. You don't have to be a math science figure. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Off what you funded. So I don't like to give returns out because every deal is different, and people want to listen to the best and don't listen to the worst.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way we're wired. We want to listen to the best and hear the best and expect the best. Every time.
Yeah. So I'd rather under promise and over perform anytime.
Exactly. Yeah. Same as me. So, speaking of deals, what has been the worst deal that you've been a part of?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. Actually, I bought a portfolio of 11 properties up in Chicago. Bought it from a lender, first liens, duplex, some of the really nice brownstones, a 10-unit apartment complex, a mixed-use spot. And I absolutely hate Chicago now. I absolutely hate Cook County. Absolutely hate it. We figured the assets were somewhere around $3 to $4 million. We were into it at 1.1. I put in initially put in $250,000 of my own money into the deal, and we found it with some individual investors on this stuff, and it's drug on 3 years. We're just finally wrapping it up. My investors are making a good return on it because we put them in at a deal that, hey, if it drug on, I was going to take care of them, pay them 12%. They're happy moving on, but I'm going to lose a chunk of money on this deal because it just drags on. It takes forever to foreclose. And then if you've got professional tenants in some of these places that will drag out the eviction. I mean, we offered them to stay in the property, start a new lease, but they just drug it out or they trash the property. If you're not there in Chicago, the judges aren't always in a hurry to have the evictions take place because you're not a voter. And so my attorneys have been like pulling their hair out as they're dealing. Like we had one tenant in our 10 unit that pulled a gun on the process server. And then the next time the cop showed up with the process server, he's like, well, I denounce the United States. This is my solemn area of Allah. And I'm like, okay, we got to go a whole different route there. It finally took 12 cops showing up to get the guy evicted. And, he sued me in federal court and that got kicked out. That's been my worst deal on a multifamily. The beautiful thing is we buy at a point where we still 90%, 99% of the time are making money because even the worst case, we bought it cheap enough that we've got to dump it. We can. This is just one deal. And you're going to have wins and you're going to have losses no matter what you do in real estate. You have ups and downs. They're not all home runs.
Exactly. It's just, Chicago, or I don't know where you bought it. Like, you said Chicago or was it Illinois? I don't remember what you said. Chicago.
This is in Cook County, yeah. Other parts of Illinois are great.
Okay.
Cook County, Florida.
Yeah, it's tougher. I have a friend, a couple actually that owns like 50 units, and they talk about their tenants and how tough it is. So yeah, you got to be really careful if you're trying to buy anything up there. For sure. So on the flip side of that, what has been your one of your best deals where you're like, man, this is like a grand slam? What has been one of your best deals?
Man, I bought this 300-unit apartment complex in Indianapolis that we just hit a home run. We doubled our money. We bought for $3 million, sold it for $6 million, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. Doubled money in 12 months, and that has been our best deal. So
sure. That was a 12-month deal, and where you doubled the money.
Yeah, we bought the note at such a cheap price compared to what was owed, and it didn't take too much for us to get everything rocking and rolling, and pretty easy. We just brought a new management, updated the rents and stuff like that, and we found a buyer that was ready to gobble that thing up.
That's awesome. Those good deals are always, man, it's always awesome when you have something like that, for sure. So Scott, it is time for our Nuggets of Wealth, and these are questions that I ask every guest every week, and hopefully they are able to get something out of them. So let's start with, what is a good tool, source, or platform that you use almost every day that can also help others?
Man, I would say learn your CRM tool, a customer relationship management tool, whether it's Infusionsoft or something simple like a Mailchimp, which is like an email service provider. Use that tool so that you can communicate, so that when you do market out, you can see who's opened your email. And that's one of the beauties is when we send a list out to asset managers at banks, we can see who actually clicked on the links, who opened it, and then that gives us a hot button list to call back and follow back up with.
what advice would you give to newer investors that want to get into the note business?
I would literally learn as much as you can. It's a different animal than your fix and flip, your wholesaling, your commercial side. There's a lot of moving parts to the note business. It's not quite as fast as a 90-day thing, like a fix and flip for people coming from the residential side. But the beauty of it is that you can do this business from anywhere. Whether you're here in Austin or Houston, or if I'm over in Europe, I've got a lot of opportunities to do stuff remotely. I don't have to go out, kick the tires. There's professionals that'll do that for all of us and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. What book are you currently reading?
I'm actually reading Evergreen Profits. It's a book that a couple of buddies of mine put together, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear, about automation on a lot of marketing stuff.
Okay, sweet. And this book is available like on Amazon?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay, Matt Wolf. And who was the other
guy? Matt Wolf and Joe Fear.
Joe Fear. Gotcha. Okay. Where do you see yourself in your company in the next 5 years?
Man, I see myself in 5 years living somewhere tropical 100% of the time.
Really?
Yeah, leaving the United States. What I like to think more than anything else is sitting on the beach working 5 hours a day, maybe at the max, just being able to automate. I've got set a goal for myself to build a large portfolio. We're getting close to those numbers. And in the next 5 years, as we recover from another downturn, which I think is going to hit sooner than later, I think that's where I'm going to be. 5 years, be somewhere tropical, non-United States area.
Speaking of that, this is not one of the questions I was going to ask, but now that you mentioned it, how does the economy changing for you or changing? How does that affect you?
The fact is, if we buy stuff at a price point that makes sense, well below market value, if the market drops, we're going to be sitting okay because we can absorb those losses, absorb that decline in the market a little bit, and still be sitting in a place where we're flexible enough to, if we've got a borrower on there, that we can modify the loan or work some sort of trial payment plan until they get back on track. Gotcha.
Okay. And last but not least, at the end of your life, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a guy that helped create millionaires, that really gave, I'm not one of these guys that when we teach or talk to people, I like to give a lot of great information. And I want to be remembered as the guy that helped a lot of people overcome obstacles and really helped leave a lasting impression on people and gave more than he was given. Awesome.
I like that. So, Scott, where can Commit to Wealth Nation go to contact you and find out more about what you're doing and your program? And I know that you have an educational program as well.
Yeah, real easy. You can find everything that we have at WeCloseNotes.com. That's my website. You'll find our podcast, a lot of our education classes. You can go online too and find all sorts of videos on what we do as well. Over 1,000 videos on YouTube and Vimeo.com for you.
Gotcha. Do you have any upcoming events that you're going to be at or a part of?
I don't travel as much as I used to. So pretty much just staying here at home in Austin for the most part. We've got a couple online things that we're doing over the next couple 60 days, traveling a few marketing events, but pretty much staying home in Austin.
Sweet. Well, Scott, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you being on, and thank you so much. And I wish you continued success.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it too, Juan. Thanks for having me.